So I'm Toby. I work at Domino UK as a validation technician apprentice.
I'm Kathryn. I work at Genton and I'm a software engineering apprentice. I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to be an investment banker and I'm going to make millions of pounds and I'm going to live in London and it's going to be fantastic. And I hated it, hated living in London. I was like, this is not for me.
Wow. Was you aware of engineering before?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Makes me wince that you stumbled into manufacturing. I'm very old. We got you on here so Tom actually feels old for once.
I have a real bee in my bonnet about teachers saying to the naughty kids that you're going to end up in a warehouse or a factory.
Yeah.
Really grinds my
I think at
gears.
one point I was told I would end up doing a BTEC if I didn't stop messing around. I mean, they weren't wrong. I did go and do a BTEC.
And you didn't mess around, right? So, I mean, factually they're right. They just shouldn't have said it, right?
This is Manufacturing Uncensored. No safe answers, no PR. Today we're hearing from the people who will shape the future of manufacturing, the apprentices themselves.
And if some of their truths make you uncomfortable, that's probably a good sign.
Would you recommend an engineering career to a 16-year-old today?
Definitely.
Yeah?
100%.
Why?
Gets you out of school. You don't have to go to college and do 3 days a week. You can go and do an apprenticeship, learn and earn at the same time. Something that I did that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I think the learning and earning bit is a big, big plus, as opposed to just, the traditional route where you go and you pay to learn. You're getting paid to learn.
But why engineering specifically? Because any apprenticeship is earn and learn.
Engineering, you sort of figure out how everything works as well. It's not just a random apprenticeship, it's everything's engineering. Everything needs to be engineered. Everything has engineering involved in it. So it's quite
Did you know
interesting.
that before you came
Not
in?
really, no.
Okay.
So what made you do it then?
So both my dad and brother were engineers. My
Okay.
brother did an engineering apprenticeship when he left school and became quite successful, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that.
I'm going to be quite
I'm
successful
not,
too.
not quite up to his level yet, but yeah.
So you're nearly quite successful.
Maybe. I've got more qualifications.
Oh, okay, so beyond quite successful.
Yeah.
Should be successful.
What about you, Kathryn?
I think if you want to know like why things work, or you like making things work, if you like complex problems, or you like at the end of working on something, you like to see it and you'd be like, yeah, I made that. Then I think engineering's so good for that.
Yeah.
The sense of satisfaction you get from it,
Yeah.
especially if it's a difficult thing you've been trying to solve, and then when it finally works, it is immensely satisfying. Yeah.
And the jeopardy story behind it. I always think there's that engineering piece, right? That and it starts probably when you're playing with Lego as a kid, and it never really changes. It starts off really well, it becomes a bit of a disaster, and then you pull the save off, and that's the thing. And I think that's the thing. We're all just big children, right? Yeah, we know this. But basically, is that right? If you try to build something as a kid with Lego, you'd go and create something, and then it goes slightly wrong, and then you pare it back a bit. That's just what we do as a job, right? Right?
Yeah.
Is that really?
Yeah.
So neither of you wish that you went to university instead?
There are aspects, obviously you have friends at uni that are going out partying and all that sort of stuff, but then they leave uni and they're in 20, 30 grand debt, so
Yeah.
probably end up working in Tesco. So.
I did go to uni. Actually, not working in Tesco. I did go to uni.
Was that the reference?
No, I was just saying I didn't end up working in Tesco. But I did go, and I think it does depend on what you're doing at university. I think with something like engineering, it's such a practical thing that it's so good to have a job that goes along with it, and seeing other people doing it and trying to do it yourself as well. I think that an apprenticeship is probably better than a university degree, because it was my degree before was all very theoretical.
What was your degree before?
Philosophy and economics.
That's quite theoretical.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Right,
Yeah.
so talk about this. Is fantastic. So tell me, how do we go from column A to column B then? What was the journey there?
Well, when I was younger, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to be an investment banker and I'm going to make millions of pounds. And I'm going to live in London and it's going to be fantastic. And then I went to university in London, so the economics part was the investment banking. Yeah. And I hated living in London. I was like, this is not for me. It was so cutthroat. And I was thinking, no, I don't want that. I don't want to do that as a job. The philosophy was just for a bit of fun. I love philosophy. I wanted to do that as well. So when I finished university, I thought to myself, okay, well, what do I actually want to do? Because it's definitely not economics. Yeah. And I'm not too sure how you get a job with philosophy. So I had to go back to the drawing board and I thought, well, what did I like at school? What was I good at? What did I like about my degree? And the one part that really stood out to me about my degree was I did logic in philosophy. And it's, again, I think it's that's steps. You know, you have steps. You're trying to get from A to B and you have a series of tools to use them. It's the same in logic and it's the same in engineering. And with a bit of thinking added in, you find out how you get from A to B. And somebody else that I knew was doing software, so I do software engineering. And they said, if you like that, you're going to really like software engineering. So that's how I went from one to the other.
Wow. Was you aware of engineering before? No, nothing?
No.
That's an even bigger leap then.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's fantastic. I mean, it's brilliant. So, okay, so how did you then go, right, how apprenticeship is the answer then? What was the stepping stones to from I've got a degree in philosophy and economics to I'm going to be an apprentice doing software? How did you, was that quite a quick thing of here's an apprenticeship, here's an employer, or was that quite a fishing trip you had to do? I thought, okay, I'm going to try out software because you can learn a lot of stuff with coding, you know, like through YouTube and things like that. So I tried that out and I tried a few of my own little projects and I thought, yeah, okay, I do like this. This is something that I want to do. But I thought I don't have any qualifications. So I either make a portfolio, which is what some people do and go into coding that way, or I try and find an apprenticeship where they can teach me at the same time. And I thought that's probably more my standard because sometimes I worry a little bit about I'm not good enough unless somebody's taught me how to do it, you know. So I was looking for apprenticeships just through like trying to find like on job websites and things like that. And then that's how I sort of stumbled upon manufacturing by accident. And then I saw the company that I used to work for on there hiring an apprentice. And that's how I sort of came to manufacturing that way. It makes me wince that you stumbled into manufacturing. All that we do wrong, right? You stumbled into manufacturing, not that it was off the peg. Toby, so what did you do then? You got 16, want to be like my...
Yeah, so originally I went to college, so sixth form, and I did a level 2 in engineering, and then I did my level 3, and then I sort of stopped for a little bit and just
worked at Tesco's.
I actually worked at McDonald's on the weekends.
Okay.
And I was working in some warehouse, whatever, and then a friend for a friend let me know there was an apprenticeship at the company I work for, and I just thought, I'm not doing that. And then I thought, actually, no, I will do that. So
that's an interesting bit then. So you've gone, so both of you actually have got quite a little bit disconnect, obviously philosophy to apprenticeship, but why level 2, level 3 pause, and then what was the situation that you didn't just naturally continue to level 4?
Lack of motivation, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was sort of not seeing, you know, going to get a job in that industry, blah blah blah, because there wasn't really many apprenticeships going at the time. So I sort of lacked motivation and went and got a job working in a warehouse that did pay some sort of money. And then when the apprenticeship came around, I thought, I'm going to be earning more money now than I would if I took the apprenticeship. But then I thought in the long run, obviously the apprenticeship is going to be a lot more beneficial. So it's better to take the pay cut and go for the job, which I've been there 5 years now. So definitely worth the risk.
Yeah, you got a pay rise?
Eventually.
Where do you both see your careers going?
Hopefully, I want to get my degree eventually, so I'm on level 4 H&C at the moment. Yeah. So once I get that done, I'll look into doing my level 5 just gradually. I don't want to do it all at once because I'm working full time as well, so I'm not In my company, we do 6-month rotations. So as you're an apprentice, you do 6 months in different departments, and then you sort of choose where you want to be. So that's what I did, and I chose where I want to be. But then I decided I wanted to go back to college a year later and do my level 4. So my aim is to just sort of finish that and progress within the role that I'm in now. Maybe take my manager's job one day.
What? Because they'll retire, or because you've got some big plan to? You got a compliment on your boss. Fantastic. That. We'll clip that out. Yeah.
This is evidence.
Right, you said, Toby. There's a bit there, right? So I'll do a bit of a rant. Both of them didn't have accessibility. This thing, right? There's so many jobs. We need so many apprentices, but you stumbled into manufacturing. You were a talent at level 2 and level 3, and we lost you to a warehouse for a period of time. That's crap, isn't it? Well, it just is. I mean, it tells you all that we're kind of, not we, Automate UK are brilliant at it. It tells you all we're doing wrong really governmentally, right? Because that should not be a situation. The roles were there, they couldn't find them.
Apprenticeships weren't pushed at school either.
Yeah, so
God.
that's an interesting point. So, because obviously I'm very old. We got you on here, so Tom actually feels old for once. But you both had that kind of thing that apprentices weren't really kicking around when you did your GCSEs, which would have been your first touch point.
Oh, yeah.
At my school, it was pretty much, if you got good grades, you went to uni. That was it. And if you didn't get good grades, then they weren't really interested in what you were doing afterwards. I'd never even, if it wasn't for my brother, I wouldn't have even really known about apprenticeships. So
Yeah, it really pisses me off, that.
It's just a clown show. It's an utter clown show. I mean, when I was making my choices in the late 1990s, that's when probably technical apprenticeships were at their kind of their worst, in that basically, put simply, there was a culture of GCSE results, D below, did an apprenticeship. C or above, you're doing a degree in something, and we created all these bloody people who got business administrative bachelors or something, right? And we had no real apprenticeships, and we had a culture where basically that it was that you do a GMVQ or you do an apprenticeship if you're a D or below, and of course what that created, it created a load of situations where we had people with degrees in nothing. I mean, it's just endless. We could have done with more philosophers and economists. We just turned out a load of general managers. But the apprenticeships that we have now are bloody good. But you've still got this school culture, right?
Yeah, we weren't asked, do you want to go to university? It was like, where do you want to go to university? It was already assumed that you were going.
Yeah, well, you think of even careers events, and I've been to quite a few to talk about engineering, and there's very few manufacturers at these careers events, and there's very few apprenticeship providers. There's the army and the local fire station or something, but then it will all of the universities will have all the rest of the stands to talk to the kids.
We took Automate Best to a couple of UCAS things last year. I don't know if you supported them. Ryan, who you know, did one for me, is that, and yeah, we stood out like a sore but positive thumb.
Yeah.
We got such a positive response, mainly I think because we had Haribo. But that I just don't get it, because the other thing is as well is that I appreciate that I've just offended anybody who's got a business administration degree, but I think I live with that.
Yeah.
But the other thing is as well is I'm going to offend everybody I was at university with now. So I did a degree, product design degree at Derby, 1999, graduated, and there was two batches of us. There was those who could do the 3 years in a row. There was those of us who did a placement year, and then did your third year as your fourth year. Those who did 3 years in a row didn't really meet their potential. I'm not on Facebook anymore, so I can't get trolled. I'll do it another way. Those who did a placement year went on to be very, very successful, not necessarily in the technical stuff. So one of my closest friends still from university is actually working in the cabinet office on systems. but he's using his degree, but he's also using his placement year. I mean, his placement year was doing some weird and wacky stuff like doing in China, doing linguistics and stuff, but he got that industry experience. So I was lucky, but it's my placement year and having a perception of how the world worked, combined with that I'd done these modules that they do in apprenticeships. That's what got me a job and made me employable. You had people who could do engineering degrees or design degrees who would just do the 3 years, but they don't know how to apply it. And yet apprenticeships is obviously the complete flip of that.
Yeah, it winds me up actually about apprenticeships versus university, because now all of a sudden apprenticeships are sexy again. It literally, I've been thinking about this for months, but then it popped up on my phone yesterday, Apple News headline, about how apprenticeships can save productivity, just like crap like that. And like, why isn't anyone else? Why are we not talking about this for the past 20 years? Like, why have we pushed this agenda to go and get into debt and have no job to go into?
It's governmental spin. The kind of the Blair Brown Labour government, their whole thing, which they pulled off with some, they had some real successes, is that everybody could obtain to be something, and a degree education was part of that, and also everybody should be to be able to obtain work. So things like Sure Start were part of that, and Sure Start was successful. But their key thing that anybody can go to university is a great line, but they then probably enacted it and it devalued apprenticeships. What you have with the the apprenticeships we have now, is that the coalition government of, I actually did some research for this, I'm quite impressed, I've got a stat in a bit, is
Stay awake.
Yeah, the coalition government in 2010 and 2015 basically created these amazing apprenticeships that these amazing people are doing, but they never really got marketed because all the infighting happened when it went to Conservatives. So actually the Conservatives and the Lib Dem coalition created some bloody good apprenticeships, or polished them, but they never did the marketing because they were too busy basically being rats in a sack. And now we're in such a hole, this is nothing to do with strategy on the Labour government, I think it's just panic, that it has to happen, and you are finally seeing it. And it's industry-led. It's gone from governmental, it's now industry-led.
Yeah, industry is saying we don't want grads,
yeah,
we want apprenticeships. Okay, right, we've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. For the people watching, let's give some context to who you are. So feel free to introduce yourself, name, job title, where you work, what you do, however much information you want to give.
Instagram handle.
Please don't.
Why not?
So I'm Toby. I work at Domino UK as a validation technician apprentice. So day to day, it's testing new software and hardware, prototypes, going to visit customers, doing demos, stuff like that, just making sure, looking for bugs, anything in software and hardware, and reporting it back, people to fix, essentially.
I'm Kathryn. I work at Genton, and I'm a software engineering apprentice. In my job, I do PLC programming, and also some computer vision as well, and also now a little bit of machine learning for computer vision.
Any questions before we jump into the first segment?
Has there been a situation where you've poured a pint of beer over an operations director of a packaging machinery business?
Now that I think about it, I think there was.
Was there?
Yeah.
Do you not want to elaborate?
But, no, not at all. No, Toby said, I know Kathryn and Toby, but a distance quite well. Kathryn we followed really since Automate Best really took over with Charlie, right? And we made it more of a community thing. And I think Kathryn's a brilliant advert for it, because she, I say, having swerved from one position to another and achieving a lot. And Toby won a competition to spend a week at Grunwald. And the reason why he's here today, is to promote my business. No, the reason why he's here today is because why I wanted these two is that both of them both eloquently point out the kind of the benefit of being an apprentice rather than I just learn stuff.
Yeah.
Toby came and won a competition because he wrote an essay saying I don't just learn stuff, and we took him to Grunwald and he tested a machine, one of my guys, and we took him out for dinner. There was you, me, a few of my team, a customer as well.
Yeah.
And he was sat opposite me and Samantha, and a large glass of wheat beer displaced itself over Samantha because Toby looked it over, and then and she was quite sticky. We kind of had to unpeel her from a seat at the end of the night, really, as well.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And we also took him up in a microlight with misfire. So yeah.
Was that sort of revenge?
Yeah, that was revenge. That was revenge.
How was the experience with Grunwald?
It was very good, yeah. It was very interesting to go out and see, especially doing things like the PDI, you know, how they work. Customers come out and look at the machine, make sure they're happy, all that sort of stuff. It was very good. Also, obviously, going out, eating German food every night, I wasn't going to complain at that.
German food, isn't it just like pork knuckle and
sauerkraut? It's better now than south, really. It's kind of it's mainly meat based for sure, but it's not as bad as you think.
I eat a lot of schnitzel.
Yeah, like schnitzel. You probably crave for vegetables when you got home, right?
I don't eat vegetables.
I have a theory that the only green food they have in certain sections of Germany is green Haribo. You know, they don't really do vegetables, really.
No.
Right, let's get into uncensored headlines. So we're gonna rattle through 3 headlines I've got on the sheet. Just topics that industry is facing, maybe you're facing, and then we'll push you on some answers. UK manufacturing struggles to attract young engineers. Why do you think more kids aren't looking at our industry and thinking, I want to be an engineer?
I think they just don't know about it.
Yeah,
I would say.
It's the school. The school's not pushing apprenticeships. I think apprenticeships are almost looked down on by some people, and it's sort of the afterthought of if you don't get into uni, maybe you can have a look at an apprenticeship, that's not how it should be, realistically, because you still end up with a degree.
I have a real bee in my bonnet about teachers saying to the naughty kids that you're going to end up in a warehouse or a factory.
Yeah.
Really grinds.
I think at one point I was told I would end up doing a BTEC if I didn't stop messing around. I mean, they weren't wrong. I did go and do a BTEC. So.
And you didn't mess around, right? So I mean,
exactly.
Factually they're right. You just shouldn't have said it, right?
I will probably earn more money than your teacher did that said that to you.
Maybe.
Can almost guarantee.
Oh, you do, absolutely does. It's just bloody hell. I look down the camera. Teachers do a better job. What an absolute farce, right? Because it just shouldn't be like that. And it's not just apprenticeships in our world. I mean, the best accountants I've ever worked with, and you know they're fairly old because this fell apart. The best accountants I have ever worked with have been the accountants who started as account apprenticeships in the 60s. You know, take it away from these guys at the moment. And basically did what these guys are doing. You know, basically there was an accountancy thing that could take you like you're doing level 5. And they're the best because they were able to apply it. They weren't theoretical. And I just don't understand this view, and I don't think it's strategy. I think it's just reoccurring thing. Is that apprenticeships have a lot of validity, and frankly, if you want me to be really bitchy, what right does somebody who's never actually done a job in industry, they've basically completed their A-levels, spent 3 years at university and gone back and teached, what right do they have to have an opinion on the employment structure of society? That, I mean, is controversial. What right do they have? Toe a bloody line. The bloody line is that there's a job for everybody. And something else you're saying, I'm getting quite ranty now, aren't I?
Yeah, go on. This is the trailer.
Something else you're saying. There is not really a job that, and it is one of the best things about this world. There's a lot of crap in this world at the moment. There is not really a job anywhere where you don't have to be talented and you don't have to apply yourself. If you know, probably the worst job in the world, and I don't know, I feel for people doing it, is people who drive around doing care work, right? But they have to use communication skills and compassion, so they have value. We live in a society where any job requires you to be talented and apply it. So this thing that different jobs are different to everybody, it's actually counterintuitive to a functioning society. So what right does a teaching does a teaching culture have to segregate what is good and what is not? Because frankly, you and I, these guys in a technical application, can be a lot less nice and less of a nice human being than somebody who is currently dancing around 15 old locations supporting an old person today. So what right do teachers have to determine what's a good job and what's a bad job? Rant over.
Any input on that?
No, I think you covered it really.
Yeah. I was waiting for you to get back in there.
Are you going to use that in one of your school presentations?
Probably not. Yeah, you two can.
Next time I see you all Britney Spears bike up at some technical college, yeah, you're going to bring that up?
Yeah.
But it's right. I mean, so when you stumbled into manufacturing, in your own words, kind of, how quickly from going, it's this, to getting a job, how quick was that?
Well, the job that I applied for in manufacturing was the job that I got.
Yeah.
So it was quite quick to go from finding manufacturing to working in manufacturing.
100% success rate.
100%.
That's crazy.
1 for 1. So I was already working in manufacturing while I was discovering manufacturing and everything that went on there. But it was, I remember thinking, wow, my eyes are opened to this entirely, like, this industry that I knew nothing about before. And thinking about all the cool applications of things that they use. I'm seeing that all this stuff that I had learnt in school however many years earlier when I did, those kind of subjects. I thought, okay, so they're taking these things that you learn and they're applying it in all these places to make these really cool things. And like I said before, they're using this, and at the end of it, they get to see it work. They get to see this production line run, and it's all really efficient and it's all working really well. And I thought, I wish I'd known about this before, when I was right at the beginning, when I was 16, trying to choose A-levels and what I wanted to do, you know.
What A-levels did you do?
I did economics, chemistry, maths and graphic design.
So you actually did the A-levels that would have meant you could have done a straight into an apprenticeship or even a more pure engineering degree, and the world didn't present you that opportunity.
Yeah, it hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically Imperial College type, do engineering type, depending on what your grades were. But you know, what was the mood like? Not mood for one term, but when you started telling your friends and family that I'm not going to live a UK version of Wolf of Wall Street and I'm becoming an engineer. What was it's probably a bad analogy, that, right? But what did the people around you think when you were going to making that step?
Well, I think they were obviously pleased for me that I'd found something that I wanted to do, because they knew that I'd already decided I didn't want to do something in economics.
Yeah.
And I think sort of the same as me, they were like, oh really, you can do software engineering in that industry as well, can you? And the same sort of thing, I think, I hadn't like considered that you could have, you know, gone into that industry.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was sort of the same reaction as me of thinking, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I hadn't thought of it before, but it sounds like it would be a good step to take.
Did you have engineers in the family?
No. Well, not in manufacturing.
Okay.
My uncle is an electrical engineer.
How many, so dad and brother engineers, other apprentices you have at Domino, how many of them do you think their dads and stuff are anecdotally are engineers?
Well, probably 50-50. Really, you probably got some that are just academically intelligent and wanted to do something like that. Because we have a wide variety of apprentices. We've got data analysts.
Yeah, don't say analysts.
Yeah. Software engineers. All that sort of stuff.
They're going to get us in trouble?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got a wide variety. So I imagine some of them are inclined from their parents and some of them are just smart.
You wear with the. you wear.
Can we put that in the trailer? Make sure that is the trailer. Because everyone on LinkedIn will give you so much shit for that one.
Brilliant.
But okay, there was method behind my madness, right?
Like the analysts?
No.
Oh, sorry.
We probably gotta kill that, haven't we? Toby comes from an engineering background.
Yep.
You come from an engineering background. I come from an engineering background.
Yep.
Kathryn doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And basically,
Odd one out.
Odd one out, right? So, but the problem we've got with that is word of mouth. It's word of mouth. And I understand that there's lots of generations where doctors become doctors, right? Yeah. But basically, Kathryn's the only one who's actually done research. The three of us fell into the world, but that's not good enough, right? Because the world needs Kathryn's as it needs the three of us to be a functioning manufacturing industry, right? If
there was some sort of content series in school showing kids what manufacturing looked like, do you think that would convince more kids of a career in manufacturing?
I think yes, it would, because it would let them know that it's an option. It's called
what's it called? Through the Factory. Search Through the Factory on YouTube if you're watching this.
Yeah, but I also
dressed as a goalkeeper.
Think that engineering now, lots of the factories I've been to, there aren't many women.
Yeah.
So I do think that as a girl at school, maybe if you saw that but you didn't see any women in it, you might still subconsciously maybe switch it off as a career path.
It's a difficult balance, that one, actually. Rosie and I Rosie Davis, who was on a few episodes, and I had a conversation about that. We maybe went to how do we do promotion of women in automation better, right? And there's some incredible talents, people I work with, Sam, who I rattle on about when, it's incredible what she's doing when he's not pouring beer on it. One of my best automation engineers, Kelly, the natural talents. But Rosie and I have always been saying, well, how do you do it? And we looked at somebody else, how they were doing it, and we went to their Women in Automation breakfast, and they were handing out makeup. And like, oh my God. And it's how you do it in a way that it's quite, that you don't look, it's quite easy to look tokenism. Mm-hmm. I think the best thing we can do is case studies. We need a film crew following Kathryn around.
Yeah.
Engineering does need to be pushed more towards women in STEM.
Yeah.
Because even at my work, there's only a handful of female apprentices, and in my college course there's one female, and then there's like 25 men.
So, as the only female in the room, you're really the only one that can speak on this. What is it then that puts women off joining industry? Is it that their viewpoint is this is just a male-dominated industry, I'm not going to bother?
Well, I think that definitely has something to do with it. I think even, like I said, subconsciously, if you just see an industry that is all men, you sort of, in some way, say to yourself, oh, okay, that's probably not for me then. If it's something that, if no other women are doing that, then maybe I don't want to do that either, But I think if, going to places where you see other women working there, you're like, okay, maybe I can see myself here and see myself in this place. So yeah, I do think that has something to do with it. Yeah.
It's so difficult. I think it's getting better. I think it's getting better. Anecdotally, if I go back to Sam and I worked together for 15, 16 years, and really when we first got her out on the road selling projects and pitching projects and speccing projects, and really her best works actually as a project engineer, we probably up to about 2016, 2017, I would still have men of a certain age ring me and say, oh, Sam's spec this, well, are you sure she's right? And you go, of course she's right, because actually she knows it better than I do. Right, so that I thought had tailed off. It's more accepting Although bizarrely, in the last week, we've basically had one of our lead we've had a site where some men don't think that women can do bolts up tightly. So they've almost asked, can we send a male engineer to make sure the bolts are done up tightly? And just when you think, well, we're getting ahead of this. And, you know, and I know some incredible stories about the most accepting thing I've seen about trans people, you know, changing from one position to another has actually been in engineering, because you take this view quite often in engineering, nobody cares who you are, it's whether you can do the job right and whether you'll support each other. You can be whoever you want to be. There's that culture. And you just think, hey, maybe we're getting ahead of this, we're not bad, and then you see a situation like that and you go,
Yeah, my view on all of this is that I don't really give a shit who the person is. If someone could just do a job, then surely that's just enough. Like, that should just be the generic view of any industry, really. Let's just employ the best person, and that's okay. But I think you're right. I think the real issue is that there's just such a small pool of women that they won't get the opportunities because the pool's so small. But if we did have 50-50 of kids coming in, and then it's just an industry for everyone, then I think the argument just dies. I think there's no argument to have in the future. But it's getting to the point of any kid or every kid thinks this is an industry that I can go into.
I think there's still quite a stigma that engineering is just a man's job to do, isn't it? So
yes,
that's probably the main problem, really.
I think the more that we can case study stuff and promote stuff, which is basically what you do as a job day in, day out, right? But we need Tobis and we need Kathryns on digital media out to as many schools as possible, multiple Tobis and Kathryns saying this is what it needs to be. I suppose it's probably inherent on industry now to really sell, not sell apprentices, but take on the marketing of apprenticeships. I think there's going to have to be a role that probably Automate UK takes. I think Make UK is taking it a little bit, where we're basically going to have to disrupt.
Yeah, there needs to be some incentive for employers now to fill that gap. Go to your local college, go and take on some kids, give them at least work experience. Because we've also got, and you guys are on actual apprenticeships, but we've got a problem with T-levels as well. So they brought out T-levels where you go and do like a BTEC level 3 essentially, but then you're forced to do 300 plus hours of work placement, and every college I go to say that we can't find places for our kids to go and do work placement.
So they can't do it.
So they can't complete their course unless they do all their hours.
I didn't quite.
So what a waste of 2 years of qualification if you can't get a buy-in from a local manufacturer.
I didn't quite see the point of T-levels. I think there's. I don't know if either of you looked at T-levels.
I don't even know what that is.
So basically, it's a technical A-level-ish type thing. That it basically falls between an A-level and an apprenticeship.
Right.
But I look at what they're doing, you know, kind of module by module. It's pretty good actually. But there's no incentive for anybody to do them. But you do A-levels, go to uni. You do an apprenticeship, you and your employer get a rate return. You get money, the employer gets productivity. T-levels kind of fell between a gap which is so deep you're never going to pull yourself out of it. I thought T-levels would be brilliant. Personally, I think T-levels should go and it should just all be apprenticeships. You want my opinion? I think the other thing is that maybe because it's critical, maybe that the government will take over looking at apprenticeships. You know, you have this strange situation, is that governments only really start doing stuff after the horse has bolted. Regulation, policy, it's after it changes. I mean, you think about it, you look at car seat belts, we had sadly a lot of people flying through windscreens in the 1970s before they actually made the law of car seat belts. I don't know what number they thought, this is a bit of a problem. It's always longer than you think. You're working at that, right? But you're I'm
just trying to picture in my head where this is going.
But you do right. So really, as soon as somebody invented the seatbelt, they should have gone. Government should have gone. Well, better make that law. We didn't in this country. We didn't for about 20 years, right? And then bizarrely, children need to be strapped in until I think I was about 10. So that's what 1990. but you're at a critical situation that you have 957,000 people aged 16 to 24 who are not in work.
Mm-hmm.
You also, as it stands, so Domino will be a levy payer, you also have 1.3 billion pounds of unused, this is my stats, of government apprenticeship levy taken from employers that's not been used.
Yeah.
So you basically finally have a situation where you're going to have to match the two together, and that means that you've basically got £1,300 worth of funding for each of those people, right? So it has to happen now, but you've got to basically, what Toby's saying, you've got to basically now KPI schools to make sure that they have a ratio of people going to university and they have a ratio of people going to apprenticeships.
Totally agree. As mentors retire, the skills gap is going to continue to widen. Do either of you worry about that? Do you worry that as you come through your career, you're going to have less and less mentors and the burden is going to go onto you to fill that skills gap?
I guess so, in a way, yeah. Because there's not really a midpoint. Because obviously we've got a load of apprentices that are all 22 and below, and then jumps up to the next group is like 50 and above. There is obviously the middle point, but it's not massive.
Yeah.
So
I sorry, before Kathryn answers, I go into a lot of colleges and I say to these kids, like, this is the best opportunity there's ever been for you to come into industry and earn loads of money. Because what's happening is that gap in the middle of like 25 to 40 is the really expensive talent pool that can go and choose whatever job they want, and all that's doing is driving up prices. So we do a lot of work with recruiters, and in the F&B market at the minute, I'm not going to name the employers on the camera, but I've got a job in the app at the minute that they're desperate for 15 maintenance engineers, can't fill one of them. They're paying 59 grand a year base plus 3 grand bonus. Their biggest competitor, one of them's on 65. 4-day-a-week maintenance engineers, these are. 65, and then another one's on 75. And they don't want they don't want to put an apprenticeship school in. They don't want people due to retire. So all they're doing is taking people out of this 25 to 40-year-old window, 30 to 40-year-old window, and they just go in, jump in between jobs.
Yes.
Because they're just, that talent pool is so small, which, to your point, 22 and younger, you've probably got a very, very small percentage of the workforce that exist at the minute in that middle ground. As soon as they retire, you're that 30-year-old that has to run a plant on your own.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the other problem is you got those who jump around kind of in their 30s and 40s. Are they really maximising their knowledge and their potential? If you jump around every 2-3 years, you're not really making much of a difference. I think I've said it before. I'm a rarity that I've done 17 years in one place. Well, that should already be the case. But people who jump around never really learn a lot. If I'll be frank with you, again, I'm probably offending a lot of the industry. So, you know, people who are mentoring you have been there for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And how important, well, actually tell us, how important has mentoring been whilst you've been at Domino?
It has been very important, yeah, because you need, you know, almost a bit like a father figure in the work to look up to and think, yeah, that's the sort of level that I want to get to. I want to have that knowledge. I want to have them skills and all that sort of stuff. If you go in blind with no one to show you what to do, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to progress. Because
there's a huge disconnect between education and the shop floor anyway.
Yeah.
I learnt nothing at college and what I did when I was at Schneider. Absolutely zero. You know, I'd go back to Schneider and the lads in the team would be like, so you know how to wire a drive now? So like, college had never even told us what a drive was.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a mentor, then what are you supposed to do? Like, how do you go and do your job?
And mentoring for you, Kathryn, has been important, right?
Yeah, massively. It's that thing, like you said, it's the thing that makes an apprenticeship different from just being in education. There are people that have had all this experience and all these years building up their knowledge, and it is impressive, like you were saying, somebody that you think, yeah, I want to be like that. They know so much. They just see a problem and they know how to fix it. and they're passing that knowledge on to you. They're saying this is how you do it. And it's also nice as an apprentice to know that you've got somebody that sort of, they've got your back, even though you are doing real project work, and it's not like what you're doing doesn't count, or you know it is going to go out and be used. But you know, if you mess it up, somebody's going to be there to be like, it's okay, like we'll sort it out, we'll work through it.
The people that you're both thinking of, how old are they roughly?
59.
There's two where I work at the moment. I'm not sure how old one of them is, but I think he's around my age. And then, yeah, I'd say 50s.
Scary, isn't it?
It is scary, yeah. I mean, I think I would say that interesting what you were just saying about ones are at your age, Kathryn. I would say there's a lot of backfilling going in people in their 20s, which gives us a lot of hope. So, you know, we're doing this apprenticeship cluster thing, or Automate Best is, and actually what we're seeing, the main thing is of clumping them together is peer-to-peer mentoring. And then I think the other thing is as well is, if I think about some of my guys in their late 20s, or Ryan, you know, who supported you when he took you to Grunwald, Ryan's becoming a great mentor because he's having to be. So he's taking it all naturally, you know, and so I actually think you, from a mentoring point of view, people in their 30s and 40s will not have the biggest effect. I think it will actually be peer-to-peer mentors, and it will be people kind of 3-4 your year senior, and it will cascade like that.
Have either of you been asked about reverse mentoring? What about the leaders in your business? Have they come to you and asked?
Reverse mentoring? What the hell? That sounds a bit like reverse mentoring. We just tell people their shit.
Sorry. You get it every day.
You know what?
Already happens in your place.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Because there's a thing there that actually leaders need to learn from apprentices. And if you both say no, then
No.
all right. Maybe James needs to go back and push that through Automate, that actually leaders in.
I'm not calling it reverse mentoring.
No,
I mean, you do, right. I think that's an SME thing again as well. Is that everybody's opinion is equal a lot quicker because you haven't necessarily got the same structure. I think you can always learn a lot from those around you, regardless of what they do. And if that's not happening, that's a bit crap. But I think it does happen quite a bit, actually.
I suggested work not that long ago that I do like a little meeting or presentation on stuff that I've been learning at uni.
Yeah.
And they were all really receptive to it, and we had the meeting, and I think it went like well, and they were like, okay, like where can we go from here then? What should we start adopting, you know, from what you've been saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, last headline. Apprentices are expected to grow up fast. So obviously as an apprentice, we just talked about skills gap, companies are having to load more and more on, which means that you've got to grow up pretty quick and take on responsibilities. How do you both manage that?
Go on, you can go first.
I was going to say, I don't know if I'm qualified to answer because I'm 27, so I feel like maybe.
Before you was.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to answer that, if I'm honest with you. It's a tricky one.
What's the hardest thing about being an apprentice?
Probably being young and inexperienced. People tend to not always listen if they're...
So they overlook your opinion because of your age.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, even I've taken apprentice out of my email signature because quite often I'd get no responses to an email, and as soon as I CC'd my manager in the reply, answer straight back. So it's quite often some people are a little bit ignorant towards an apprentice and think, I'm not talking to them, I'll talk to their manager, I'm not talking to them.
Technical or non-technical people?
Both.
Don't answer that.
Both. Yeah.
So what we've learnt today is outside of industry don't care about apprentices, and now inside industry don't care about them either.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's not they don't care, it's more they probably just think inexperienced, young, probably doesn't know what he's on about.
Yeah, but it's similar to the women in engineering thing.
Yeah, it's just rubbish, right? But I think there's a lot of hope, but I think it's easy to not you must take people at face value. If anybody is a leader in this industry and they're not taking somebody at face value, leave the industry. You want me to be that harsh? I'd say that. Because if you're not, I will never be the most successful person in this industry, and nor do I probably want to be. But the one thing I do know is situationally, when it comes to taking an opinion, I will always take people at face value with an opinion. And doing that and working in organisations that do that, they could be organisations that are more profitable and more successful and more structured. But when I think about how brilliant it has been to develop sales and projects with a woman for 15, 16 years, and then have our other director also being female and admin on the background, it's just a non-event. But, there are differences for sure. Like I would say that in a meeting with a customer, I'll be able to read this. I'll be able to maybe be a bit more technically on top of it, but the perception and Sam's ability to read ahead of the situation is just incredible. I think that all the R&D work, some of the best R&D work I have ever seen on any automated system, is not driven by any of us. It's the operators who have to run it, right? You'll know this from you being a bit more customer focused with Genta when you're at Scorpion. Is that even down to where buttons have to be pressed and stuff like that. You need that. Innovation there's as much innovation going on automation on minimum wage workers, and the opinion of an apprentice on a technical situation is just as valuable as the opinion of the technical director. No ifs, buts, or maybes. And personally, if you do not believe that and you're in any form of management or leadership role, you're either not doing it right and you need to retrain, and if you're not capable of doing it right, retraining, go and do something else. Will we be that harsh or be that harsh? That's quite harsh, isn't it?
No. We're clip farming you today.
Sound
bites coming out of him.
I'm lucky because my manager will tell me, he doesn't see me as an apprentice.
Yeah.
He doesn't treat me like an apprentice. He treats me the same as my colleague who's been there for like 7 or 8 years. So, but it's just the odd, people that just think apprentice. I'm not interested.
When you start managing, Toby, who are you going to model as a manager?
What do you mean?
That guy, right? Guy.
Of course. Yeah.
Who, when you start managing situations, who you gonna think? Well, you're gonna think what would have Paul done at Scorpion. You're gonna think what did Russ do? But yeah.
Definitely.
Kathryn, are you okay explaining what happened in your apprenticeship?
Yeah, definitely. So, in summer last year, I got made redundant from my last job, which was where I started my apprenticeship. So I had 3 months to find a new employer before my funding was cut for my degree that I'm doing at the same time. And I would then, if I didn't find another employer, I would have had to start again, which I'm already doing a degree, an apprenticeship quite late into the game. I've not started at the same time as everybody else, so the thought of having to start again even later was quite scary. But it was actually like Automate Best and the people that I got to know through Automate Best that made that whole experience a lot less scary, because I felt like I had people looking out for me. I already knew people in the industry. Obviously, Charlie from Automate Best put me in touch with James and some other people in the industry, and it was through those connections, it was that I got to chat to more people and think, okay, there are jobs out here, there are things that I can do. And then it was my old boss that was friends with my new boss and said that, you know, Kathryn's looking for something. And then I got an interview and started at my new job now. So that was sort of timeline of events of it.
And a hell of a relief.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was such a relief.
How bad was that jeopardy?
Well, if I didn't get a job within those 3 months, I would have had to start again. And the thought of starting again actually made me think, should I just do something else, you know? Like, because I didn't know if that meant I'd have had to start my degree again. I was already a year into it, and really enjoying it. And the people that I've met at uni, they would have all gone on without me, you know, they would have been able to continue what they were doing. And it did make me feel quite like, oh gosh, if I can't get this, then, you know, is it worth starting again? But I didn't have to in the end, which is very good.
Do you want me to rant again?
Please do.
Here we go.
3 for 3.
I am absolutely bored to my back teeth of how much of my WhatsApp at the moment is playing spot the difference on rehousing apprentices. We're in a situation driven by some things we can control and some things we can't control, is that you've got a government, this might not help Peter in his policy work, but you have a government that has you have a government that's caused stagnation. We have some global politic issues that have caused stagnation for whatever reason, right? You know, and then you have this situation that if you drop off of your apprenticeship for more than 3 months, you have to start again. And I know that because literally some of the WhatsApps I've been doing have been onto your phone as well. Is I am so bored of, you know, apprentices losing their jobs because people are going into administration or people have to cut back, and that we have not even given the grace of, say, 24 months to pause, to let the economy grow back. That is woeful, it is shameful, and it is cruel. Kathryn, having made the decisions that she made to be probably one of the brightest technical talents that she can be, did not deserve the inhumanity in a developed country to go through that. No ifs, buts or maybes. It's quite ranty, isn't it?
No.
Why am I ranty? I had lunch and everything. It's quite...
So the automation show, was that last year?
Yeah.
So I was on a panel talking about skills and we need to get more kids in and stuff like that. Got off the panel and a guy came up to me and went, I didn't want to put my hand up, but I sit on a board of apprentice providers up north, and it was right around the budget where they were putting up minimum wage, I think, or national insurance.
National insurance, yeah.
Yeah, and of I can't remember the figure. It's basically 50% of their apprentices have been made redundant. And I was like, shit, I've just stood on stage talking about how we need to employ more apprentices and we need more kids to come in. And oh God, it's terrible timing. But it's just it's that knee-jerk reaction. Instead of, we all have this talent problem and we should be looking 10, 20, 30 years ahead. We just, one little thing happens,
yeah,
cut 50% of...
I mean, anybody who works at Tesco's, he's a very hard-working person, so we probably shouldn't parody it so far too badly. If we'd lost Kathryn to Tesco's for a year, for her to on the checkouts, for her to not have that jeopardy and just feel comfortable and to then fall naturally back into the situation, that would have been so much kinder to you, right? Because I can't bear to think that must have felt like.
Thanks.
Bullshit. Not backbone.
It certainly is bullshit. Yeah, it is. Yeah. How do we reframe that? What question do we use? Are we all just sharp bullshit? Apprentices should be cut when national insurance rises.
No, it should be apprentices. I don't know what the terms is. government's position and society's position on apprenticeships is fit for purpose? Bullshit or backbone?
Bullshit.
That.
Perfect. Right, last segment is called Say the Quiet Part Out Loud.
Teachers don't know what the real world's like. Bullshit or backbone? Bullshit.
What's one thing that education tells you about apprenticeships? Or what's one thing that nobody tells you about apprenticeships that really needs to be said? What are people not talking about?
I think people do. When you're in the sphere of doing an apprenticeship, people do talk about how many opportunities it gives you, and I think that is something to say. I would say maybe people don't tell you that it is really hard work.
Yeah.
It is like working and doing your course at the same time. It is a lot to do, and you do give up a lot of your free time to do it.
It's also not like you're doing, well, some people might, it's not like you're doing an apprentice job. You're doing the same job as your colleague.
Yeah.
Yeah, you quickly don't become the trainee on the shop floor. You quickly
yeah.
are an employee.
So I've been there for 5 years now, so I'm no longer,
Of course.
the trainee.
You're expected to know how everything works and
Yeah.
how to install without someone helping you.
Yeah.
But it's an investment. You're spending all this time and energy now to get it back with those opportunities later, I think.
What do you... So it's right, make it sound a bit like an interview. Tell me your weaknesses. No, what... either of you got a view on what you'll be doing, you want to be doing 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Kathryn first.
I would still like to be doing something technical.
Mm-hmm.
Quite often when I've spoken to people at shows, they say to me, oh, maybe you could go into sales next. And I'm thinking, no, I don't want to go into sales.
No, you're good, you don't need to go
I want to do what I'm doing now. I want to be an engineer. So I hope that I keep doing that. And my goal is I would like to be like a go-to person in 10 years' time. If somebody needs like the solution to something, or they think, okay, we need maybe something to do with computer vision, say, because that's what I do. Say, okay, Kathryn will know the answer to that. That's where I'd really like to be.
Toby?
Pretty much exactly the same. I want to carry on doing what I'm doing. I don't want to transition into a computer-based role or anything. I like working with my hands, so that's something that I want to continue doing. And yeah, I want to just become the best I can in it. I want people to think, I'll go to him for help, or I've got a problem, I'll get him to come over and have a look at it, sort of thing. Because that's what I think now with other people, so I want people to think that of me.
Let's finish with a strong close. If both of you had a message to a young person watching this, that maybe they've never heard of engineering, or maybe they have and they don't know about a career in it, what would your message be to them?
Do it. Don't be a bellend.
That's a pretty strong message.
No YouTube.
No YouTube.
I would say it's difficult when you're younger because you don't have the motivation to go and find out about all this stuff. But that really is the best thing to do. Try and learn all your options, so you can choose between this and this and this and this, and it's not just university, these things to do. You think to yourself, what do I actually like, and what jobs or career paths are going to give me those things.
Cool. Anything else?
I've got nothing. It's great.
Thank you both. Really appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Cheers.
The UK manufacturing sector won't survive without apprentices, and if we don't provide support and mentoring for them, we're going to lose them.
And apprentices will carry the weight of the skills gap for years to come if we don't step up.
That's Manufacturing Uncensored.